Well, figured I'd bring you along for just a quick little one today. My alternator has started to have issues. It's squealing like a little pig, and it's time to replace it. So, as I like to do, if I have an opportunity to upgrade, I am going to upgrade. So, if you look at your RPO list, if it's still intact in the glove box, it will tell you what type of alternator came in your vehicle. In my truck, it's the 105 amp alternator. It is a dual battery truck, so I'm a little surprised it's only got a 105 amp alternator in it, but maybe it was changed in the past and somebody was just lazy. I don't know. So I figured if I am going to be changing out my alternator, I am going to upgrade it. And so the nice thing about these trucks is the RPO codes will tell you if you have 105, 145, or something else. I'll put a list up on the screen showing the various RPO codes so you can double check it against your list. The easiest swap in these is to the 145, which is what I picked up at the junkyard. So it is considerably bigger in shape and housing. One of the defining marks, it's kind of hard to see, it says right here DR44. It is a direct bolt into this one. The difference is that the belt is different. So on that truck, I was able to grab the belt as well as the alternator. Now, there are a couple of little things that people sometimes recommend you do. I will be doing it on this one because I have the materials. If you don't, it's not a necessity. I've done this upgrade on the previous truck and never had any issues with it. But on this one, I'm going to spend the extra little bit and I'm going to upgrade it. And basically what that is that this is the charge cable or the power cable that goes from the alternator down to the junction block. Looks like maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 gauge at the most. I've got some 4 gauge wire down here that I'm going to make a new cable. The only downside is in this junction box, it only has one large opening, so you just gotta kind of open up the second one to make it fit. No big deal. So I'm going to run a new 4 gauge wire. I'm going to put the new alternator in and get this thing hooked up and going. So alternator removal on these is not super difficult and quite simple. Belt off, 2 bolts, and then the 1 plug and the feed cable, and it just pops out. They can sometimes be a little tough to get in there, but on that it's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to switch that out right now, and then I'll show you about the cable and the new belt. So I want to show one of the challenges you may have pulling out your alternator. So there are 2 pins, one right here and one right here, and you can see how rusty they get, and they get stuck. I don't remember where I learned it from, but do yourself a favor, pull these pins out, throw some anti-seize on it, because they are slider pins. And basically what's supposed to happen is when you stick these should come all the way back out they should be flat on this surface, and then when you put your alternator in, this side presses through up against the alternator, creating the snug fit. So take a few extra moments if you're at this point, take both of these pins out if you can get them out without too much damage, and get them lubed, cleaned up so that you can slide those in and out, and that will save you some grief if you ever have to do this down the road again. All right, got the pins. These are all loose. They can slide nice and move in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the alternator in. Alternator is in, and as you can see, it fits right in the hole as it should. Bolts back in. All right, alternator is installed. Now I'm going to fight with this belt for a while because these are always a bit of a bear. Before I install it, I'm going to show how much of a difference there is. So that's the original belt off my truck, and this is the belt that I'm putting on, and you can see just how much bigger it is, and that's because of how much bigger the body is. So I'm gonna fight with that for the next little while, and then once I have that on, then I'll come back and we will work on the power cable. Okay, found a mistake yesterday. So I got my alternator in, got the belt on, got everything getting ready to go, and I found a small problem. So, as I like to be transparent, when I find a mistake, I look at it as a way to make a learning experience. So, if we look at the front, this is the one that I had first. So if you look at the front, oh, this is another one. This is my one that I picked up today. They look exactly the same. So you're like, okay, well, what's going on? You flip them around the back. Again, they relatively look the same. There's some minor differences, but for the most part, they look the same. So what's the difference? Well, this one is from a newer 2007.5, 8, and etc. further on. And then this one is from a 2003 to 2006, plus perhaps some 2007s. What's the difference? Right here. This is a 4-pin. And the one I picked up is a 2-pin. And what does that mean? Well, you can get a 2-pin to a 4-pin adapter, but it's not going to work because the 2-pin is externally regulated from the BCM or ECM on the new models, where on the old models, the 4-pin is internally. So my truck has a 4-pin, it does not have a 2-pin. You can pick up a 2-pin to a 4-pin connector, but because this alternator does not get the proper feedback from the BCM/ECM, it gets locked at 13.6 volts and does not charge properly. So do not do as I did. Check the pin on your alternator in your truck and make sure it's either a 4 or a 2 before you go down this road. Mine is a 4-pin, and luckily I was able to find another one pretty easily and pretty reasonably priced. So this one is going in the truck. I'm going to fight with the belt, and then we're going to move on. Okay, alternator is installed, 4-pin plug is installed. So now I'm going to be making the new cable. So I have my terminals here. I just matched up what I had in my case to what basically we're on here. And then I've got a chunk of 4 gauge. So I'm just going to cut the 4 gauge to the length of this, crimp these two on, and then that cable will be done. So I'm going to crimp that, get that made, get that installed. And then that should be the last thing. I'm going to have to do some mods to that little red box under for the junction block, because the 4 gauge wire is considerably thicker, so it's not going to fit in there very well. So I'll have to make sure that that junction block box gets made a little bit bigger for that. So going to make this cable, get it installed, and then we should be able to hook everything up and get the battery replugged back in, and this job should be done hopefully without any issues. Okay, so this is what I'm going to show you. So the alternator is in. You can see I've made my new cable, and if I come down here, here's the nut. If I put this on to that nut, you can see that that little hole there is not big enough. So just grab yourself a knife, just kind of make this a little bit bigger so that this can go through, bolt her down, and you're done with that cable. I had the supplies for it, so it was no big deal, but if you don't, I mean, you can use the other one if you want, but it's usually advisable if you're going to upgrade the alternator to do that. So I'm going to finish getting that buttoned up, and then once I have everything connected, I will bring you and show you guys the end of it. Okay, just to show you that everything is working as intended. Alternator, alternator, new power, new lead wire. Here's my voltmeter. You see right now it just says point whatever. Nice healthy 14.6. So there we go. Just because something failed doesn't mean we can't upgrade. Junkyard alternator for 50 bucks. First one unfortunately was a fail, so I have to add that on top, so 100 bucks. Still cheaper than 300 bucks. Gets me a bunch of extra amperage. Gonna be good for when I want to add a bunch of accessories. Get the second battery running in this thing. So call this a win. So that's about it for this one. Just remember, where there's a mistake, it can be an opportunity to learn. So learn from your mistakes. See you in the next one.